Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Human Narrative. This is your host, Dorinda. And today I wanted our topic to be on money. Money. So, before I even get started and even going into the discussion about money, which I wanted to also be a laid back topic for me as well, right? I wanted to play a little bit about the OJs, right? So, let's listen to a little OJs. Anyway, so all that credit goes to the OJs, of course, not Dorinda. So let's talk about money. Money. That is a very important day to day conversation that we often have, right? Whether it's individually, with friends, family, or whatever the case may be. Money is very pertinent in how our day to day existence or how we show up in life, right? So, what is money to you? Money to me is different the way I may perceive it, or the way you may perceive it, or the way someone else in your circle, or even in my own circle, may perceive money. But it can definitely be a tool for any of us, right? And it's a form of exchange that it represents or can be represented in many different forms. So, what are those different forms? You can acquire money in different, like in a trade form. You can acquire it in, it allows you to be able to grow economically or even personally. You could acquire it in estates. You could acquire it in even through day to day working, right? The day to day salary income that you go every day, which most of us are accustomed to. Um, but just beyond those different practical functioning of what money is consisted of, it's different, like I stated earlier, to any of us, right? For some of us, it's a form of security. While for other people, it's a freedom to be able to lavishly enjoy life, to travel and do the things that they want to do, such as, there are people, I've talked to people who say that, hey, I don't care about buying a house. I prefer investing my money traveling around the world and seeing the world because that's what speaks to them, versus others who would say, hey, I prefer buying a home and having that as an investment, and then maybe saving on the side to lavishly or engage in other leisure activity that may want to enjoy as well. So whatever speaks to your spirit or whatever speaks to your soul, those possibilities are out there and it can be done. So is it a freedom to you? Does it provide freedom? Does money provide freedom? Does it provide a sense of security for you? And sometimes it changes, right? It may provide security at one time and then it may provide freedom at another, depending on where you are in life. For me right now, it provides security, but I'm working to a point in life where it would also provide freedom to be able to do the things that I lavishly want to be able to do, by God's grace, of course, not by mine, so it can be a source also of different stress and opportunities as well, right? But money can be neutral and it doesn't have to mean one particular definition or purpose in a particular person or group life, right? You get to define what that meaning is for you. Uh, how should money be respected? I will talk about the respect, and then later on I'll talk about disrespect as well. Because just like we can pour positively into anything, we can also negatively impact those situations, right? So just as money can be respected, just as money can be worshipped, but how can money also be disrespected as well? Um, That's possible, right? So, why should money be respected? I respect money. And I don't respect money because I worship money. That's my perspective. And different individual may have different perception, of course, to each of their own perception, right? But money should be respected because it represents time that one's put in, right, to be able to acquire it. Even if one says, okay, well, they are rich, they acquired it through someone inheritance. Okay, but it was somebody's sweat that was behind it in order for that inheritance to be obtained and continuing to be maintained if one is able to maintain it, right? So it's represent time, it represent effort, and also resources. And it can be a power tool, right? When you do have money, a lot of times it speaks. We live in a society where that is obvious, right? The rich will go into a facility or area where um, they may be considered more and maybe receive better services versus someone who is poor or looked down. Or even, for example, if I go into an establishment, I've had this experience where I'll go into an establishment and I get treated better, and someone realizes that someone that I'm with, that they've been treated negatively, is associated with me because of how they look. They assume or automatically judge that they don't have that status or stature that we all, so many things that we focus on or in society. So it can provide also, or it can be a tool of power in many places in our legal system. That's an area, of course, that is completely obvious when it comes to the legal system, how money often portray itself and its power in that spectrum, of course. And when it's managed wisely, it can provide a sense of security, and it can provide a sense of different opportunities, not just in the present, but for future generations to come, right? And freedom, not just for in the present, but also for future generations to come as well. But respecting money means that you understand the value behind the effort, the time, the resources that it comes with, using it responsibly and not taking it for granted is important. Very, very important. So, why money deserves respect? Like I said, it reflects efforts, it provides stability, right? It's not just about the time, the hard work, and the dedication, the sleepless nights that one may dedicate to it. Whether it's sleepless night, whether it's long drive that one may dedicate to it, whether it's giving up your hobbies to be able to spend some time to help someone else, right? Is still giving up your time that you're choosing not to use in the way that you want to use it, right? So it's still effort and time, and it's mean being able to acknowledge that energy that is being spent in that space and understanding the impact that you also brought to that space as well, right? But it provides stability. Just being able to make smart financial decisions can lead to security for not just you, like I said, but for the future, not just for the future for you. I like to talk about generations, generational wealth, right? We're not just talking about today. Let's talk about the future of wealth. What are you bringing to the table so we can all be able to sustain this generational wealth for everybody? So, and it also bring peace of mind and being able to avoid unnecessary stress. Life happens. you know there are times as human we go through situations and life happens, but it creates that security to be able to say, okay, I have this emergency fund to address this emergency that just unexpectedly happened. It was not expected, But guess what? I have an emergency fund on the side that I can dedicate to it. So I don't have to worry about my, salary that's coming in this week or mess up my cycling of paying my bills or having to make extra calls or do all those things. I mean, if you have to do those things, of course, necessarily do it. But those are other measures and steps that we can always take also to prevent the stress level of having to worry about those type of financial burdens, right? It create opportunities. Money open doors. There's a saying that you always want to be ready when the opportunity present itself. You don't want to be like, the opportunity is here. I wish I had. I mean, if you can create, by God's grace, you always want to be ready when the opportunity present itself. So therefore, when that door opens, whether experiences, education, investments that allow ones to be able to enhance your life through your finances, and also your personal growth, why not? And empower generosity as well, right? Having financial resources also allow us to be able to support, people that we love, contribute to society and help those that are in need, not enabling, right? There's a difference between helping, enabling, and just those who just, okay. All right. So, but it empowers one to be able to provide generously, and also it requires responsibility. Disrespecting money through wasteful spending. Like I said, I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Or poor money management can lead to a lot of hardship and limiting future choices. And we can always turn that around by making the right decisions today, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about what did the Bible say about money, right? Because I love my relationship with my Lord. But people often talk about, well, you shouldn't love money, you shouldn't this about money. If you're a Christian, you shouldn't that about money. God is not saying, doesn't say anything negatively about wealth. He's just saying that you have to be able to have balance around it to ensure that anything, right? Whether it's wealth, money, whether it's sex, whether it's alcohol, whether it's any substances, whether it's a person, a relationship, does not become an idol. So that can include money, right? So whatever you do, as long as that does not compare to your relationship and your connection in the time that you invest with God, it's not comparable to that other pattern or behavior, uh, connect with Him. And He will tell you you're good, right? Even if you don't believe in me. So you don't have to look for those answers or reassurance or validations from those different spaces externally. If you can just connect internally with your source, you find your answer. But what does the Bible speaks about or say about money? The Bible speaks extensively about money, right? It offers wisdom around it, how to earn it earnestly, and how to manage it, how to view it. It's also, but it also did not condemn it, right? I did talk about that a little bit. It did talk about the potential corruption of it as well, right? And how one's life can become so focused on it that it can become an idol, right? Um, so what are some scriptures that excuse me, y'all, focuses on that? Hebrews 13 and 5 says, keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. So this verse teaches us about how to also be able to be content, and also how to trust solely on God for our wealth and our substances, right? So this is about how money is a tool, but it's not the goal. So we can have money as a tool to pay off this, so to address this, and to be this, but it should not be the main focus. Like, I want to be rich. You can say, I want to help people. And through helping people, my brother, my sister, God will help you to become rich. You don't even have to ask Him for that, right? So, what is your purpose behind what you want God to bless you with? So, that's how you can use money as a goal. I mean, as a tool. Ugh, that's the enemy. As a tool and not the goal, right? So money can also be used. The love of money can lead to disruption, right? We saw a lot of that in the Bible. A lot of that in the Bible. There were many instances where Jesus went off because we humans, man, when I've read the Bible, and there were so many times God had to forgive the Egyptians and the Israelites, and I'm like, oh my goodness, we humans, we something else. But thank God you are so patient, because some days I need that forgiveness, But the love of money can lead to destruction, right? So for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, and this is First Timothy 6:10. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierce themselves with many griefs. This is about this is not condemning money, as I mentioned earlier, right? The Bible is not saying money itself is evil, but the love of it, that can lead to greed and corruption and also harming other people, is what is evil. The negative intent that is associated or that comes with one connection with money is what is evil. So the love of money can lead to destruction in that sense, right? So wealth is a blessing, but it comes with responsibility. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. This is Proverbs 9 to 10. If you want wisdom, go to Proverbs, right? Proverbs 3, 9 to 10. So honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns, not just one, not burn, your barns will be filled to overflowing. When God be blessing me, this is how I be doing my dance. Because I feel like I'm in the water just flowing. So it will be, barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. I mean, that is just beautiful. It just encourages generosity and faithfulness and giving back to God and being able to give back to God, right? So that's also important, not just giving back to yourself and to others, but being able to honor Him and being able to tell Him thank you for what He's given you. I always say, thank you, Jesus, for not being a selfish God, because you could have said, I want 90% and you can keep 10. You're only asking me for 10. Whew, I'll give you some 10%. Because you ask me for 90, we're going to have to go, we're going to have to talk, and we be talking too, but we have those chemical moment, right? So but being able to honestly understand that this relationship is, you know just about God's love and what that love is consist of. It's about balance, right? So being able to money is also being able to help and be generous and help those in needs. The Bible talks about in Proverbs 19 and 17. I'm humbling over my word. Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord, and He will repay him for his deed. The Bible encourages sharing wealth and caring for the less fortunate, not those who choose or complain to be, but those who are actually less fortunate, right? Trust in God, not in wealth. Do not store up yourselves, or do not store up for yourselves treasures. And this is Matthew 6:19 to 20. Do not store up for yourself treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves in treasures, or yourself treasures in heavens, right? It reminds us about the material wealth temporarily here on earth, but the spiritual wealth and riches eternally with our heavenly Father. I often talk about how we should see ourselves, and these are discussions I'm going to bring in the future. How do you see yourself, right? And one of the things I often say is that the love of God for me is so beautiful, so pure. The way God sees me, I cannot accept no other from nobody else in such a way, not even for myself, right? If God loves me in such an authentic way, in such a loving way, why should I expect less of that? Right? So that is very important. And do not allow anyone to gaslight you, or make you assume that you deserve less than what God is telling you that you deserve. You know who your inheritance lies in, right? So when you look at that, a marble gold floor, a boo, yeah. So more money is a resources, right? And it can be earned honestly. Like I mentioned earlier, you don't have to cheat people. You don't have to be greedy. You don't have to scheme. You can just earn honestly and it will come. It will come to you, but it also have to be managed wisely, and it has to be used for good. It cannot be wasted, you know. And not everyone that come to you for help need you to be able to support them in that manner, because a lot of times people are just there to see how much they're able to get, not really um, adding in that environment, maybe to add to support more, right, or to build more. And if that's not the goal, then you have to also ensure that you stay within what the goal and purpose of that fund, or what that blessing, financial blessing, is for. Let's see. How can money be disrespected? So I wanted to talk about a little bit. Money can be disrespected in several ways, right? So, and it can lead to a lot of financial struggles and hardships. I've made some poor financial decisions as a young kiddo. I'm still young, but as a younger kiddo, I made some poor financial decisions, and I learned from those mistakes. That's why we go through experiences. It's so that we can learn, so that we don't have to repeat it all over and over again. And it can lead to financial struggles and also missed opportunities, right? And then negative consequences. And then we go to Piaget's theory, where it goes to where we get to our age where we started feeling despair and not happy in life and all of those type of things. So ways that money can be disrespected is, of course, by wastefully spending it, carelessly spending money, or unnecessarily on excessive things without considering long-term needs. We've all done that, right? Especially during the holiday seasons, we all go crazy when we have that means, right? To be able to show people that we love and care about them. But there are other ways to show that as well. So just impulsively buying things, or excessively buying luxury, spending beyond our means, you're pouring out more than you're actually bringing in, and the equations are not matching, baby. So you got to change some few things around. Get back to the drawing board, look at your numbers and see what works for you. If you're pulling in some certain amount of income and it's not matching what your lifestyle is, maybe you might want to get another job to support that lifestyle. Or if you're tired to get another job, you might want to cut down on a few things and expenses, so that you can enjoy a certain aspect of whatever life you hope to create for yourself. And then you also have the lack of financial discipline, right? failing to budget, huge, 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 failing to budget, saving, or even having a plan for the future, right? Just living paycheck to paycheck. And I do understand sometimes that may be difficult, but even if you're making the lowest amount of money, having in that space, put in at least $30 per paycheck aside. It adds up to something rounding the year that you can say, oh my goodness, look at this. I cannot believe how $30 or even $10 can be or add up to this amount, right? So being able to budget. So if your money can be disrespected by failing to budget and save or plan for the future, just living paycheck to paycheck, or no savings or no emergency fund, or assuming that, well, it'll happen when it happen. Well, sometimes it's not happening, so the greed and the unethical gain of it, right? Exploiting people or exploiting or other people. I love American Greed, the show. It talks a lot about that. Engaging in a lot of dishonest business practices or pursuing money at any cost as well, right? That can, it takes the human out of those things, right? Especially in the services that you're providing as well. Fraud, corruption, or taking advantages of people for financial gain. That is very important. Hoarding without purpose, accumulating wealth with no intention of using it for good, whether for personal well-being, family, or helping other people, right? Just excessively being stingy or refusing to share your wealth when you can. Don't become pressured by people or individual assuming that you should share your wealth because you're hoarding. Only if you don't have a purpose for it. Okay, and you choose to direct your funds in that direction. Okay, but ensure that it's a choice in giving, right? Neglecting generosity is another way of in which money can be disrespected. Being selfish with money and ignoring those in needs, not helping in our charitable causes in our communities or those in need, letting money control you. Worship. We talked a little bit about it earlier. Becoming obsessed with wealth, which lead to stress and anxiety, or even unhealthy attachment to materialistic things. Right? There are certain attachments that we have, I spoke of earlier, that can become idols in our lives. And sometimes those attachments are created by what money provides. So being able to understand that prioritizing money over relationship integrity or even one's own well-being. There are times I've left a job, I've left a event that could have produced money in so many situations, or a relationship that could have produced money, and I'm like, nah, my well-being, let me go get some sleep, we'll catch up later, you know because that was important in that time, because if I'm up and well, I can make more, right? So being able to prioritize is going to be important as well. So borrowing carelessly, right? Taking unnecessarily debt or loan without a plan to repay them. Just because you feel like someone have it, or just because you feel like, "Ooh, I need it, so why not?" So overspending in our own pattern and behavior, but reaching out and expecting loan to be able to support whatever situation, whether it's luxury or necessity that one may have, right? Disregarding hard work. Now, I have I have a dislike. I don't use the word a lot, hate, because I believe hate is so strong. So I will say I may not like something. I may not, I may like something. So dislike or like, right? So one thing I dislike is this, hard people who have all their limbs and hands and fits and all those things and are able and refuses to. So thus disregarding hard work and expecting money without efforts, or wasting opportunities that are earned honestly, That's another form of disrespect. So this could be even in inheritance form, right? One that one generations have suffered and struggled to be able to attain, and this space is now comfortable, and there may be people that are not respecting and honoring or bringing back. It's not just about taking from it, but being able to bring back and add to it, so that if continue to feed more generations to come that plan to add to it. That's the importance of it, right? Seeking to get rich quickly, scheme, those type of things. Just being able to sustain or have a sustainable income. So just being able to have the disregard and disrespect for hard work, and assuming that I can cheat someone out of all of their hard work, and so forth. Ways to invest. What are small ways to invest, right? So sometimes people say, well, I don't have the money, I don't make enough to invest. Just like I said earlier about saving, even if it's $5, you can put on the side, $10, $30, put it on the side, it adds up. That's how back in the days our grandparents, our parents used to save, is putting $5, $10 on the side, and then that adds up. And when those emergencies came up, guess what? That's what they use to be able to take us to the doctors. That's what they use to be able to pay for our school fees. That's what they use to be able to pay for different things that needed to be taken care of, right? So, whatever your experiences may be in that aspect, right? So, what are ways to invest money? You can invest in so many different ways over time, but small ways to invest are, starting with like high yield saving accounts, even though you're putting in a little bit of amount, so something that would give you more interest in your regular saving accounts while you're keeping your funds there, and you can have access to it. If you are able to have the amount where you can save, excuse me again, up to, excuse me again, creating a CD. You can also do that, right? A certificate of deposit, which is a CD. And this is where you can have like a fixed term investment that can guarantee you a return, and is good for a risk kind of adverse or investors. And you get to discuss what fees and all of those things looks like, and you what is comfortable for you, right? And if it's not comfortable for you, don't do it, right? There's also the stock market. You know, this is where you have different financial options. It's a platform to be able to choose from, and you get to invest, or you get to allow the system that you're with or the agency that you're with to invest for you on your behalf, right? You also have the exchange funds and the index funds. This is also part of the stock market with lower risk than individual stocks. So there's so many different ways to invest. You have different apps that you can use to invest, right? You can go into real estate as well. You can start a small business. And that is something I'm going to talk about, because I've had many people talk to me about, hey, Dorinda, I want you to talk about how did you start your small business and all that stuff. Because, I don't want to pay for it. So come in future is being able to talk about how you can start your own private practice, especially in the social work world versus therapeutic, well, social work, therapeutic world. How that looks like too when you do get that opportunity to be able to do so, right? Being investments or larger investment ways can be real estate as well. Rental properties, flipping those things into income. And, but you have to make sure you find the right property that when you do purchase it, it has the right interest rate, so that you're not killing yourself to pay those mortgages off and those different insurance and all those fees that adds up. So making sure that your interest rate is something that is within your budget. And you also have a realtor that is advocating for you and not just themselves, right? So, and if they are advocating for themselves, making sure that you advocate for you in the transaction. There's also mutual funds, hedge funds, that one can manage. Those have higher returns depending on what type of money you have in your banking system. There are bonds, both government and cooperate or corporate bonds. Those are available as well. Um, I talked about starting your business that could grow into becoming a large investment. Gold, silver, those commodities as well. Those are huge investments out there. Those private ventures and capitals. So there's so many things that one can do to be able to invest, whether you are investing in a small amount or whether you're investing in a large amount. But make sure that you understand what you are being told and what you are signing on, so that you have a voice always, right? It's your money and you should know what's going on and what's happening to it. So, I mean, the most important thing is that manage the money wisely, because it's important so that you can have more in the future, to be able to have more different opportunities and choices, to expand in whatever way you choose, or chooses to, right? So let's see. You can increase your income in many different ways, right? So if you're not making a lot of money but wants to maximize your income, that can happen in many different ways. You can ask for a raise at where you're at. You can ask for a promotion. I know times in the market we're at right now is kind of weird. It's so weird. So if you're in a position where you have the leverage to ask for a raise, at your leverage or at your discretion, do so. You can start a side hustle. A lot of people are, having more than one or two type of hustle to be able to live the, like I said earlier, the lifestyle that one wants to live, right? Whether it's freelancing or selling products online or offering services, um, ride sharing and delivering, or creating a digital type of product. Whatever speaks to you, those are ways to increase some kind of monetary income. So monetize your skills. What skills do you have? Do you have hobbies? Do you like to take pictures? Do you like art? Are you into fitness? Are you a therapist? Do you enjoy making people laugh? Are you a comedian? So turn that skill that you have and that you possess, it's there for a reason. And to be able to bless other people so other people can also bless you monetarily, right? Teach other through coaching or even online courses. Those are all great ways to be able to generate income and all of those things, and reduce expenses and save, right? So that's going to be important as well. And ways we can reduce expenses and save is by budgeting smartly, right? Knowing where our money goes and cutting down on all unnecessary, well, not all, but cutting down on unnecessary costs. Negotiate bills. But if you want to be really stern about your money, it really means cutting all unnecessary spending, really. Because in the long run, you get to enjoy the benefit of that. So it's all about how much discipline is implemented, depend how much you're able to have discipline you're able to have around your money as well, right? So negotiating your bills, right? Call service providers to discount on certain types of insurance or annual types of things that you renew. See if you compare cost and all of those things, right? Cook at home instead of us eating out as well. One of the things I don't like to do, but I'm doing it sometimes, right? Cancel all like unused subscriptions and things that you're not using. Use cashbacks and all any discounts and things like that. I normally don't have time looking at coupon books because I'm exhausted mostly, or in the books trying to understand other type of things. So, but there are times I love having systems that can catch my point, because all I need to do is just enter my phone number, so I don't have to go in the coupon book. So kudos to those companies who do that. Um, So invest and grow your money in stock markets, in real estate, in small and smart investment, cryptocurrency. People do those things as well. But things that produce high yield saving account interest for you, side business hustling, those are also important. Networking and seeing better opportunities, connecting with people, obtaining jobs, when getting a job, always making sure that your next job you're paid more than your last job, always making sure that that is a priority. And if it's not a priority, making sure that the cost or the award outweigh the cost, right? Are you not driving anymore because you're getting less space, so therefore you're not adding mileage to your car and you don't need gas, right? So you don't need to take money out of your account for gas. So is the award outweigh the cost? Being able to, put all of those things into consideration is important, right? Develop a wealth mindset. Avoid get rich quick scheme, but focus on things that are honest and also that provides, a positive outcome out there. Because, like I said, if you provide the right out services, you will make the money. So just do the right thing, and when you do the right thing, it will happen. So let's see, final thoughts. So, in order to make more money, just get more jobs, spend less, invest wisely. Those options are available, right? What are other advices about money? So, just spending less, pay yourself first, paying yourself first. And this may be, paying your bills, you know, save a portion of your income, at least 20%. Um, so that you can have that system in place, so it doesn't become something you have to debate over every time you get your paycheck. Create a system where it's automatic, right? Build emergency funds, 3 to 6 months expenses. So it's not for long run. Or if you're a person who can create a long run emergency expense fund, do so. Avoid debts, or use it wisely. Some of the times, for me to build credits is I will purchase something, even though I'll have the money, I'll purchase with a credit card, but later and use payments and to use that money that I have in the bank to keep paying that fund back off, right? So use it wisely, so that if you don't have it, don't put it on that credit and low when I do have it. Yeah, that's what leads to bad credit. So, um, and pay off high interest debts, right? Because those high interest debts, those interest, they are just horribly disgusting looking when you look at them. Hundred and some, what dollar for interest on a monthly bill? Huh, you still have to pay it. So pay off high interest debt first, and use your credit wisely. Invest early and consistently if you can, of course, right? Even if you can in dollars, in $2, in $5, it adds up. Do something that will count in the long run. IRA, 401ks, index funds, ETFs, retirement accounts. Do something that will count for yourself in the long run. I do understand we tend to invest in or hope in the system to provide a lot of things for us, but you have to also do something for yourself in the long run, because the system changes every day. Have multiple streams of income. Relying on one paycheck is very risky. But if you do get to that space where you can, also always have the option to be able to go and get more if that, you know, become a situation in which one must do, right? Oh, let's see. Budget and track your money. Know what you're bringing in, know what you're putting out. Tracking your money. Your bank, they tend to tell you every month, hey, you've spent $30 more than last month. If your bank is not doing that, find a bank institution that manages your money better, right? Because that keeps you into awareness about, oh, okay, this is what I did extra this month, or this is what I did extra and what I need to maybe pull back on, or what I'm comfortable continuing to do. Whatever fits your cup of tea. But budget and track your money. Know what you're bringing in so that you're not caught off guard when money issues arise. Protect your money, avoid any scam or fraud. Keep your money in an institution that protects it, that is big on security, because that's important, right? Let's see. Be generous and give back. Create a mindset of abundance to those who needs, and always be willing to learn about money, and also how to be updated on, investment strategy and financial tips. This is an area that I said I want to grow in this year, because I normally allow just people to just manage my money. So this is an area where I want to be able to educate myself to learn how to grow it and expand whatever the good Lord is blessing me with. So being able to just learn and grow it is important. Money is a tool, not a goal. So overall, money gives us freedom, it gives us security, it provides opportunities, so that we are not stressed, right? So use money to build the life that you want, um, not just acquiring it, but having a purpose behind it. Steve Jobs is a great example of it. There are people who sometimes just acquire it just to be able to have a purpose for helping, or purpose for, living a better life, the freedom that I talked about earlier, the security, and so many different things. So, what is your purpose behind it? So, money is a tool, but it shouldn't be worshipped, but it should be respected. And I hope that this information can be useful to you in how you continue to look at money, or how you've been looking at it. Hopefully, it changes your mind about it and it helps in a positive way. And maybe you can see it in a more positive light on different ways that you can utilize it to benefit you, and not just you, like I mentioned, but also the future generations to come, right? So, thank you all for tuning in today to the Human Narratives. Again, this is your host, Dorinda. It's been a pleasure always. God bless. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.